Hello, hello, hello. This is Chris from Austin, Texas. Welcome everyone for joining the conference call today. We're going to wait for just a moment longer for a few more to arrive, so just sit tight and we'll be getting started here in just a sec. Thanks again. All right, it's me again. Welcome everybody. This is Chris Murphy, and today we're going to be talking about culture. Wanted to just again thank everybody for being on the call today, and I'm excited that you're able to join me and learn a little bit about your culture. I'm going to be spending some time today talking a little bit about what I did, what I talked about at Serious Business. So if you obviously weren't in my breakout, this is your opportunity to get in on what we talked about. But before we begin, just a few housekeeping things. We are actually using some new webinar software today, so if we have any technical difficulties, I appreciate your your understanding, so just be patient with us. Off to the right-hand side, you'll see that there is a place for you to write in comments and or questions, and at the end of today's we're going to have a Q&A, so if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in there. I also want this to be interactive, so if during the presentation you happen to have a question and you want to ask a question in the middle of the presentation, just go ahead and type it in, and we'll be sure to come back around and answer any questions that you might have as we go through the presentation or at the very end during the question and answer. Let's see here, what else? The other thing I wanted to mention is that everything that I'm going to be sharing with you today is basically tested or has been tested in our salons and spas. I own 3 salons and spas here in Austin, Texas. We do quite well here in Austin, and everything that we've done and that I'm going to share with you today has actually been tested in our salons, and so it's actually real, and we've tested the results, and I'm going to be sharing those with you today. So I like to think of the content that I'm sharing is actually a case study. We've tested these things for the last 5 to 6 years in our salons. So let's see here. Before I get started, let me just properly introduce myself. Again, I'm Chris Murphy, and I am the co-owner of Maximum FX Salons and Spas here in Austin. We have 3 Aveda lifestyle locations, multi-million-dollar operation, and growing. I'm also the founder of Motive Point, which is kind of my website, or considered a resource, if you will, a website I've created where I actually share all of the knowledge that I've accumulated in my experience running my salons here in Austin. And so it's a great place to go if you're ever looking for just information about how to do things in your salon and spa, whether it's leadership, productivity, whether it's human resource, operations. There is an emphasis on technology. That tends to be kind of where I like to focus and really spend a lot of time trying to streamline my operations using technology, not only for efficiency, but also to improve communication. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. So motivepoint.biz is the name of the website, or the website address. So feel free to visit that anytime you'd like. I constantly add new content to that every day. I'm also involved with Strategies, which is a coaching and consulting company in Cedarbrook, Connecticut, where we teach salons and spas how to run better businesses. And so that's just a little bit about me. And if you ever want to reach me for any reason, you can always email me at chris@motivepoint.biz. All right, so let's just jump right in. So the title of my presentation at Serious Business was Culture's Not Dead. Loyalty's not dead when your culture's alive. And culture is really kind of it's a big buzzword right now. I feel like it was really big in 2015. I think it's going to go into 2016. It's being used a lot. Teamwork was kind of 2014. It seems like everybody was using that word. And now culture is really starting to come up, and you starting to hear more about it. And I actually kind of am excited about that, because I think as an industry, we're finally starting to realize that if we have a really healthy culture in our business, then it can do some powerful things for us. It really can make a huge difference in our business. And so let me just kind of start by setting the table and start by talking about the impact that culture has in our business. And so when you think about culture, how do you think it impacts your business? First of all, I like to think, and the biggest thing, and I constantly preach this to my teams, is the competitive edge. And we don't really kind of think in terms of how does culture make us more competitive? Well, quite honestly, if you think about it, no one can duplicate your business culture. And every one of us has a culture in our business, whether we like it or not. It might be a good culture, it might be a poor culture, but we have a culture. But whether we like it or not, our culture is unique to us, and it is what defines us, and it cannot be duplicated. As much as our competition wants to try to imitate or duplicate what we have, they cannot do that. And so if that is true, as owners, as managers, as employees of our businesses, wouldn't we want to spend a little bit more time on our culture? I know I do, because if that's the only thing the competition can't touch, then that's a great place to play and to be and to improve, knowing that no one's going to be exactly like we are. And so therein lies the competitive edge. So that's super important. The other is alignment. So what does that mean when you have a culture a team that's aligned? I like to think of it as a team that's pulling the company in the same direction, not like tug of war in two opposite different directions. And that's oftentimes what in businesses today, and especially businesses that don't have a healthy culture, is everyone has their own agenda. And so they're pulling the company in all different directions, and there's no alignment, and there's just kind of no forward movement, no forward progress. Profitability. Now, this is another one that a lot of people don't connect the dots when it comes to culture, is profitability. And so when you think about profitability, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around, how do we connect the two, culture and profitability? Well, for me, it's really easy, and I had to learn this the hard way in my own business. But think about it like this. When you have a culture that's not healthy, oftentimes what goes along with that is a lot of turnover. And I'm here to tell you from personal experience that turnover is a bad thing, and it's very, very expensive. In fact, it's probably the most damaging thing that could ever happen to your profit and loss statement, is having too much turnover. Because as you already know, the costs to hire someone else and actually recruit, and then the lost sales that we miss for not having that team member, just compounds the damaging effects. So profitability and culture go hand in hand. When you have a healthy culture and you stop the bleeding, and you have team members that want to stay and want to enjoy coming to work, then absolutely it's going to create more stability, and you're going to have a healthier profit and loss statement as a result. So you can definitely connect the two. Let's see, the other piece is speed. Some of you might have read the book, The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. It's a great book if you haven't read it. The Speed of Trust is amazing because it teaches, how quickly companies can move when you have high trust in your company culture. And so teams that have a healthy culture have high trust, and therefore they move a lot faster, and they can speed past the competition. When you have when you have a healthy culture. I'd like to, one of the things I like to do when I do these webinars, or even when I'm teaching live, is to get an idea of kind of the makeup of my audience. And I'd love to find out kind of what your role is in your company. And so Elise is, by the way, I didn't properly introduce Elise. Elise is in the background. She's my marketing director, and she's actually moderating today's conference call. Elise, can you put a poll up to see if we can get everyone to tell us what their role is in the company? 1 second. I might be able to do it for us. There we go. All right, so everybody on your right-hand side, you should see a poll, and if you'll just take a moment and tell me what your current role is in the salon. I'd like to see the makeup of the group here today. Yeah, so we got owners, managers, okay, great, wow. Mostly owners and mostly managers, so we got leadership on this call, I love it, fantastic. Okay, so yeah, that's about right. That's about what it was at Serious Business. We got majority owners and managers in the room. I'm gonna go ahead and end this poll here. Awesome. All right, well now you guys know too who's on this call. Okay, so let's go into the next slide here, and bear with me here just a second. All right, so what does a healthy culture look like? And by the way, these images, I don't know about you guys on the call, but for me, I'm very visual, and I like to see pictures, and I included in my presentation today pictures of my team, just so that you can kind of have a window into what our culture looks like at Maximum FX. And so these are all of my team members. This is at one of our culture retreats that we have annually, where we do a community cleanup, and then we do a battle of the salons. This is one of my locations where we actually do an obstacle course, and each of the three locations compete. Anyway, so let's talk about what a healthy culture looks like. We know kind of what it feels like, right? And so when we walk into a business, regardless of what kind of business it is, we can get a feel, a pulse for the kind of culture that company has. Wouldn't you agree? You know, you can feel it. There's this energy, right, in the room. But what does a healthy culture look like? Okay, so we talked a little bit about speed of trust and speed, and how when you have high trust in the company, you move a lot faster. So in my mind, and what I've experienced in my own business, is that companies that have a healthy culture have high trust. And the reason that's important is because when you have high trust in a company, you don't tend to question everything. You just go with it because there's high trust. And as a result, you move a lot faster. Purpose, this is a big one. Companies that have a healthy culture are purpose-driven. And we're going to talk a little bit about purpose in the next few slides. But what does that mean, purpose? I mean, it's easy to say that, you know, team members come into work every day to obviously do their job and get paid and be able to pay their bills and provide a living. But, you know, they can go anywhere to do that. I mean, if you're like Austin, there's a salon in every corner, right? You know, so there, you know, what's the purpose? Why do they come to work every day? Why do they choose to come to your salon every day? And so when companies that are purpose-driven, that's the magic. That's the emotional attachment that drives your company culture. So if you have a purpose, that's something that your team members can get emotionally attached to. I like to use the example of Martin Luther King, right? Talk about emotional attachment. He didn't walk around, you know, giving speeches and saying things like, I have a statistical goal that I want to accomplish, or I have a profit measurement that I'm trying to achieve. No, he went around saying, I have a dream. And so that's the difference there between purpose and not having a purpose, and having that emotional attachment to your brand and to something bigger than your team and bigger than who they are, that they can get excited about, versus not having that. All right. And then competitive. Teams that have a healthy culture are competitive. And when I say competitive, I don't mean competitive as in competitive with each other, even though every now and again, it's good to have some competition, some healthy competition in the company. But I'm talking about competitive as a group, competitive with the brand as, for example, how do we beat last week's numbers? How do we beat last year's numbers? And how are we going to do that together? So companies that have a healthy culture are definitely competitive. Fun. just looking at this image here behind the slide, you can see that, teams that have a healthy culture and that work in a healthy culture like to have fun. And when you don't have hidden agendas and you have everybody pulling the company in the same direction, it's just a much lighter, airy, high energy environment where people love to be and smile and have fun. And then lastly, teams that have a healthy culture are ultra efficient and productive. They're productive because they're excited, and like attracts like. When you have a healthy culture, clients notice that. And that's part of the formula for referrals. That's part of the formula for building your business, right? And so you've heard it before when, clients come in and they experience your salon or spa and they notice things like, gosh, everybody here seems to really like working here. It seems like everybody gets along well with everybody and everybody's smiling, And so as a result, more clients refer people and you're busier. And I don't know about you, but even when my team members are busy, they may be tired, but they're smiling. And so all of that translates into productivity and being productive and efficient in our day-to-day work. Okay, so that's kind of setting the table of kind of what a healthy culture looks like and the impact that culture has on our business. So I'm going to shift gears here for a second, and I'm going to introduce to you what we call at Maximum Effects are the 3 pillars of culture. And this is kind of the structure or the framework of the rest of this call. And the reason I call it the 3 pillars of culture is because culture is kind of a hard thing to teach. It's kind of an abstract thing. It's kind of one of those things that unless you have something that's tangible, it's really hard to teach. And so when I was putting this presentation together, I decided to kind of think about what we did in our business to create an environment where we were able to retain 90% of our staff members in less than 2 years. And I was looking back and I was like, gosh, what are the things that we did to accomplish this? I mean, clearly we did a few things differently, but what did we focus on? And I kept going back to these 3 things: values and purpose, leadership, and communication. And I got to tell you, you can't have 1 or 2, you have to have all 3. That's the real lesson here is the values and purpose and leadership and communication. And you can't have communication and values and purpose but no leadership. You can, but you're not going to accomplish what we were able to accomplish in less than 2 years if you don't have all 3. You can have leadership and communication, really good communication, but if you're not leading on values and you're not purpose driven, you're not going to create that next level achievement that you're looking to achieve in your culture. And so we're going to kind of take a deeper dive into these 3 areas, and I'm going to give you some nuts and bolts and some kind of nuggets to take home or to implement on your next workday, and give you some things that you can use that can really start to shift your culture right away. And keep in mind, what I'm about to share with you is what we actually did in our business and had the results we accomplished. And I'm going to tell you this, it's not hard. It really isn't that hard. In fact, it's very easy. I was kind of shocked at how easy it was. The hard part comes in the discipline and follow through. So just keep that in mind as we go through the next few slides. All right. So let's talk about values and purpose. And I'm going to just tell you my story and kind of where we were as a company. And let's just go back to 2006. I mean, way back before the recession. And I'm going to describe to you my business and how we were running our business at the time. We had very high turnover. I mean, high turnover. We're talking like at the end of the year, we were lucky if 55% of our staff was still with us. We didn't have a whole lot of operational systems, and we were growing rapidly. We were going from 1 to 2 locations. We had just opened our 2nd location. And we didn't have a whole lot of systems. Like when I say systems, operational systems. We were just kind of a hot mess. We didn't do anything consistently. And training, our service, the level of service we were providing, our staff competencies were all over the place. I mean, we had some great stylists that we hired. And then we had some not so great stylists. I mean, if you go to Yelp and you look at our reviews before 2006 and then our reviews after 2006, you can see the definite difference between what happened at that point in time before and what happened after that. I don't know, I know some of you on the call, I'm personal friends with you, but for those of you that don't know me on the call, I'm that kind of leader. I came from outside of this business, and I have a background in finance and management and information systems. And so coming into this business, obviously I was baptized by fire. But the second thing is that my background is very left brain, very black and white, very numbers driven, very results driven. I'm not that kind of leader or that owner, or at least I wasn't then, that kind of leader that was going to have everybody kind of sit in a circle, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya. I was not that woo-woo kind of, we're going to, get into values and purpose kind of leader. I was kind of like, we have a job to do, and we're going to do it. And the numbers are going to tell me what's going on in here, and I need results, and I need them like yesterday. That was me. So very centralized control in the business. I had a very tight grip on the business, and I had to make every decision, and I was in control of everything. And it got me so far as a leader, and in my business, it got me to a point where, I was able to kind of control certain things. But when you go from 1 to 2 locations, that's where things, start to fall apart, especially when you're managing and leading from that space. There was not a lot of team engagement, and there was certainly not a lot of motivation. And so as a result, that then was our culture, a very command and control kind of culture. And some of you on the call might have that right now going on in your business. And some of you may not, but that's just to kind of set the table where we were and where we were coming from. And as a result, the trust was super low in my business. I didn't have a lot of trust. I mean, no wonder my staff was leaving left and right, because they didn't feel a connection to me as their leader. They didn't feel a connection to the managers. They didn't feel a connection to the brand. It was just like another salon, like every other salon around the corner. And so there was no attachment. And quite honestly, looking back, I don't blame them, And so we had to do something about that. And when I say we, I really mean me, because there's a saying, the fish stinks from the head down, right? And so I own I had to, first of all, come to terms with saying, hey, you know what? I own this. This is what's happening in my business. It's not them. It's so easy for us as owners and managers to say, oh, it's them. They're the problem. No. We have to own some of that problem too. And so I stumbled across a book called Tribal Leadership. And I'm going to provide you with all this information in an email, so don't feel like you have to write it down. But if you want to write it down, it's called Tribal Leadership. And it's a book that really it's the only book that I read that made me kind of sick to my stomach when I was reading it, physically sick, because I actually while I was reading the book, realized, you know what, that's me. I'm doing everything that they are telling me not to do in this book. And so they go into teaching you how to establish, your company purpose and your core values, and really develop a tribe on your team. And so I read this book, and what I did was I had to do something radical. I decided to actually close my business and pretty much have a kind of an all company meeting. And I decided to do it on a business day, on a Wednesday. And as you can see here, this was when we had the meeting. We actually closed the business on a Wednesday. I actually paid my employees, but I had to do something radical, something that would wake them up, because the trust levels were so low. And they knew that, they needed to know that I was serious about what I wanted to do, and I wanted to change my company. I wanted a healthier culture. I wanted to have a company where people would be excited about being there. And so I wouldn't recommend, for those of you that can't fit into your cash flow to close your business and do something like this, but I will encourage you, if this is something that you're thinking about doing, if you want to have a company culture retreat to establish your values and purpose, if you can't close on a business day, maybe do it on a Sunday. But I intentionally did it on a work day because I wanted them to know that this was serious business, and that we were serious about shifting our culture, and that this was a work day and everybody had to be there. And so what we did is we had everybody come, and we asked them to define their values. We were interested to know, okay, what's important to you, right? And so we had a list of values on a sheet of paper, and we just said, you know what, just circle 10 values that just really stand out. Don't put a lot of thought into it. Just go with it and see what comes up. And after that, what we did was we decided to take all those values and find out the values that were shared among the team members. Meaning, what are the top 10 values that people pick the most, right? And so once we identified that, we were then able to see all of the different shared values that our company team members had. What connected all of us as a team, right? And then once we did that, we threw those values up on an overhead projector, and we as a team went through each one and defined those values. We believe teamwork is this. We believe trust is this, right? And we had to define them because trust for me might mean something different for someone else on the team. And so we were really interested in making sure that everybody was crystal clear on what the values were and how we define them as a team. All right. And we came up with those 10 values, and those 10 were learning, teamwork, trust, fun, flexibility, service, success, happiness, relationships, and creativity. And our purpose was simply, we kept going back to just making everyone's day. So it's kind of that whole day maker, David Wagner, his whole day maker. And so making everyone's day, that is our purpose. And so once we had that in place, then we were able to anchor to that. All right, so we have the 10 core values as a company, and then we have our purpose. And we could have done that for 2 or 3 days. We could have easily spent 2 days on that exercise. But what we did was we wrapped it up in a day, and we printed them out, and we shared them with everyone. And here's the cool part. You know, everyone might have a set of values and purpose on this call, or maybe you don't. Maybe you have them, but you're not using them. But here's where the magic happens, and this is what's explained in more detail in the Tribal Leadership book, is once you have your values and purpose in place, now as a manager or as an owner, you can manage through those values. And I got to tell you, because the group came up with those values and the purpose together, there's no one questioning the values. There's no one questioning the purpose. We can all anchor to those values and to the purpose, right? And so imagine when you have a problem. For example, you might have 2 team members that, you know, just aren't getting along, right? I've had that happen in my company. And we've had 2 people that come in and they want to talk about what's going on and why they're having issues. I can bring in the values and say, all right, guys, well, what value do you feel like is being compromised? Well, she's not being a team player. Okay, great. Well, how about you? Well, I don't feel like I can trust her. Okay, well, there's 2 values that are being compromised. And how are we going to move past this? How are we going to get past this so we can learn to work together and work better as a team? And so when you have a conversation like that, it's easier, right? Because you're not getting personal. And everyone in the conversation can anchor to those values. Is this making sense? So managing is easier when you have values in place, but those values have to be developed and have to come from the entire team. It cannot be you, the owner, that, you know, it's like one day you show up to a staff meeting and it's like you've come down the mountain like Moses with your tablets and it's like, here are the values. No. It doesn't work that way. If you want your team engaged and you want your team to be emotionally attached to your brand, they have to help you build those values together with you. All right. The other piece is hiring and firing. Man, it gets real easy to hire people that are in alignment with those values. And it's easy to fire people when it's crystal clear that they're compromising those values. So everything just gets easier when you have values and purpose in place. We have a whole interview around questions that are structured around our core values. And we have those so we can help us to identify people that are like-minded, people that
that are share our values. And so we build a company team that are in alignment with our values. And so you start to create more of a tighter knit group of people that share the same values. And so therein lies part of the magic too, in assembling your team. But last one is customer service. This is a big one, and this is another way to keep your values alive. Is to share those values with your customer. Be proud of those values. Put them on your website. Put them on your menu. Put them everywhere. We also have huddles in our salons and spas, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But we like to definitely share we have a values of the week, and we make that part of our daily huddle, and we share success stories around each of those values. And so we rotate those values in and out of our huddles. But like I said, if you go to our website, MaximumFX.com, you'll see that on every single page of our website is a link to our core values. And so we like to express our values to our clients. We like to let them know if we have a customer challenge and a client calls in and says, hey, I don't like my haircut, or I don't like the way the color turned out. We explicitly say, you know what, service is one of our values, and we want you loving your hair, and we're going to do whatever it takes to make it right. And we'd love for you to come back in and give us an opportunity to continue working with you. And so again, just really iterating how important it is to share those values, not only internally, but with your customers and your clients as well. And you may or may not be able to read this on your screen, but this is just kind of our 10 core values: of learning, trust, teamwork, success, creativity, fun, happiness, relationships, flexibility, and service, and then continuing our purpose of making everyone's day. And we often always remind our team that making everyone's day also means making each other's day. It's not just about making our client's day, it's about making each other's day. So if I've got a team member that's running behind because a client showed up late, we have other team members that are right there ready to make their day and get them back on track, whether it's, power drying the hair for them or getting their next client ready before they come in, to get them back on track. So it's not just about making our client's day at Maximum Effects, it's about making everyone's day. Okay, so I've shared with you how we did that. We came up with our company values and our purpose. If you're interested in a step-by-step guide to kind of putting together your own company culture retreat, whether it's your first one or maybe it's one that's coming up that you do on a regular basis, if you text the word culture to 501-492-6200, I will email you automatically a step-by-step guide. We're also have a guide on group text messaging. We're going to talk about that here in just a sec. How to set up group text messaging groups for your salon spa. And I've got a ton of other bonus presentation materials, along with the copy of the slides that I'm presenting to you today. So just, again, if you can't do it while you're on the call, write the number down, and then just all you have to do is text culture to that number. It's not going anywhere. So, if you wait until after the call, you can do that. And I'm going to put this slide back up at the end of the presentation. Okay, so let's shift gears really quickly. So we talked about values and purpose and the importance of having values and purpose. But now let's shift gears and talk about leadership, okay? Because that's the second pillar of the three. Leadership. So what is leadership's role in culture, right? Leadership's role is to protect the culture. I think Van Council talked about it the best. He said that his team members and his organization are the guardians of the culture. And I love that because it's so true. It's all about holding each other accountable. But like I said earlier, the fish thinks from the head down. So it starts at the top and it works its way down. And so someone's got to be in there beating the drum every day. And guess what? It's going to have to start with the owner and the managers and the leaders on the team. We're in charge of protecting the culture every single day. Our other job is to, let's see. There we go. Sense of urgency, beating the drum, talking about sense of urgency. On those days where it's really slow and everything tends to slow down, because that's just human nature. When things are slow, everything kind of slows down. We kind of fall off our game. We kind of tend to want to cut corners sometimes. We get complacent. Well, no, leadership's job is to make sure that we maintain that sense of urgency. If productivity starts to slip, if it's January and February, which is typically a slower season for a lot of people, then leadership's role is to make sure that we're looking at every possible opportunity in the company, to make sure that we're looking at every hour that's available and trying to sell every hour on the book. We're there to make sure that team members are, doing all the things that we expect them to do with side duties after they're finished up with their shifts. It's making sure that, laundry's being done, all of those things. The other is leading by example. And that's a big one. And if we need to if we have team members that are showing up late, we have to show up on time, right? So believe it or not, our team members are watching our every move, whether we're communicating with them or not. They're reading our body language. They're watching how we show up every day. And if we're not showing up on our A game and ready to give 200%, then guess what? They're not going to, right? I always tell my leadership team when we meet, you guys, they're only going to meet us where we are. They're only going to rise to the level that we're at. And so, I get it. There's days where we just are not there. We're just not having a good day. We're human. But the problem is that, we don't get a free pass, because this is what we decided to do when we decided to become the owner, right? It's just part of the responsibility. So we have to lead by example. We have to be able to call people out when they need to be called out, right? And here's the cool thing. When you have your values and your purpose in place, this is the most important thing, is that guess what? They can call you out as well. See, values and purpose isn't something that you use as a big stick to hammer your team members into place. It's like no one's above the law, right? Like everyone has to live those values, including leadership. And so we got to lead by example, but and be prepared to call people out, because in a culture where there's values and purpose and there's transparency and high trust, your team should be able to call you out without getting any kind of retribution. And so leading by example is where it begins. And the last is, my mentor, Neil Dukoff, live no compromise. And what that means is don't cut corners. Don't half-ass it. Just do it all the way or don't do it at all. Because when you allow compromise in your business, everything suffers. Everything suffers. So it's up to leadership to maintain that no compromise mentality, that no compromise atmosphere in your business. Okay, so the last pillar, which is communication. This is the big one. And for those of you on the call that know me, I'm kind of the techie guy. And so this is where I promise to sprinkle a little bit of technology on my presentation, so that hopefully maybe you might get some ideas on how you could do some things in your business that's a little bit more efficient. And so we're going to talk a little bit about communication. And this is huge, because this is, as you've probably already heard, is like the #1 killer of business, right? Big or small, communication. So imagine, even when you have one location, you might have a one location operation. How many of you guys struggle? It's hard, even with one location, to make sure that everybody is on the same page. Imagine 2 and 3 locations, and you now have that physical separation between the locations. It gets really hard when it comes to communication and making sure that I can tell you a story when there was a time where we would have a leadership meeting, decide on a promotion, we would launch it, and then next thing you know, Salon location number 2 has no idea that we're doing this promotion. How many times has that happened to you guys? And then it's just a huge mess, and it's because we didn't clearly communicate through the proper channels what was going on, when it was going on, how it was going to happen, who was involved, all those things. And so communication is huge. One of the things that we do is scoreboarding, and simply put, scoreboarding, I can do a whole webinar on scoreboarding. Scoreboarding is just keeping score, open book management, sharing the numbers. So daily we scoreboard our numbers, and some of you might do that. Maybe at the end of every day, you in the back break room, you post your numbers and you share with the team kind of the performance of the team, and that's great. Some of you might share scoreboard and share information weekly. But what if today I introduce an idea that encourages you to scoreboard hourly? And and some of you might be thinking, whoa. I can barely do daily. What are you talking about, Chris? And the reason why I'm challenging you to think about maybe scoreboarding hourly is because there's a lot of opportunity there. So what are some of the things that you scoreboard? For us, we scoreboard hourly. Let's use pre-booking, for example. The reason why we pre-book, we scoreboard hourly, is because if halfway through the day, our pre-booking starts to slip and we go from 80% to 70 to 60, and then now all of a sudden we're at 40% pre-booking. And that typically happens because as you move through the day, you have more clients, and so your chances of keeping that pre-booking percentage high starts to go down. But if we wait until the end of the day and put all of our numbers, then it's too late to do anything about it. But if we scoreboard hourly, halfway through the day, we can say, guys, holy moly, our pre-booking is super low. Then we have the rest of the day to fix that. Does that make sense? And so maybe you don't pre-book hourly, but maybe you pre-book 3 times a day so that your team is aware of what's going on. Let's talk about huddles. We make those mandatory, and this is all part of our strategy to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So we have 2 shifts. We have a morning shift and an afternoon shift. And we huddle up 10 minutes before the shift, and we talk about, things like who's out today, who's on vacation, how many new clients do we have coming in, and who are they going to see? And do they know they're seeing new clients today? Are we out of any product? What's our goal for the day as a team? Are we behind our monthly goal? Are we ahead of our goal? If so, how much? By how much? So these are things that we do and we talk about, and then we talk about birthdays, we talk about anniversaries, we talk about anything that the team members need to know during that time. And I like to think of it as that time when our team members go from me time to company time. That makes sense? And so that's important. Huddles gets everybody on the same page. And then lastly is coaching. Coaching is key. And this is where it gets really hard sometimes, because like I said, it's easy to coach. It's just the hard part's the discipline of doing it over and over and over every month. And so coaching is just another way of saying one-on-ones or reviews. I like to call them coaching because it's less invasive. It's less you're being graded, because it is just that. It's coaching. It's not we're evaluating you. No, we're taking time out of our busy day. We, the managers and the leaders, we're taking time out of our month, and we're going to give you our undivided attention once a month. And we mark out by design. We actually mark it out. We actually schedule it on the books because we want them to know how important it is. 30 minutes for each of our team members every month. And I have to tell you, if there's anything you take away from this call today, the 2 things of everything that I'm going to teach you, the 2 things that had the biggest impact on our business that helped us go from 55% staff retention to 90% is establishing our values and purpose and creating the space for one-on-ones or coaching. And here's the thing. If you're an owner on the call or you're a manager and you're thinking, I don't have the energy. Those are so draining. I can't even do them quarterly. What do you mean monthly? I get it. I know. I'm an owner. So I get it. But here's the thing. Don't feel like you have to have the agenda. That's what I think is so burdensome, is that we think we have to come in and do the whole thing. Like we have to bring the agenda. No, it's not that way. What coaching is a 360-degree conversation. And so we encourage our team members to show up with the agenda, and we're there to coach them through it. And don't be surprised if you've fallen out of habit with coaching with your team. Don't be surprised if the first few coaching sessions are not about numbers or anything having to do with the business. Sometimes it's about building trust, especially if you have low trust in your company, right? And so definitely look at your schedule, create by design the space, and mark it out. There are things that happen where, if they're marked out, clients running late, team members running late, we have to reschedule the one-on-one. We allow that, but they have to be done within the same week. And the reason why is if you have to cancel a one-on-one or a coaching session and they don't get rescheduled, what message is that sending to your team? It sends them a message that it's not important. Therefore, they're not important. So again, it goes back to that whole coaching, connection, acknowledgement, that sort of thing. And then here's kind of what it looks like in our business. It doesn't have to be complicated, you guys. So it starts at the top and works its way down. So for us, I meet with my salon directors. Each salon location has a director, and I meet with their team leads, and then they together meet with all the individuals on the team. And so what that means is that um, we divide and conquer. And so we like to do kind of 2-on-1s. A lot of times it'll be the manager of the location and the team lead together with the team member. And it's more conversational that way. It's not always set up that way, but if we can, we do it that way. And again, once the team gets larger, then we promote a team lead. And then, I like to have my team leads, do anywhere from 8 to 10 a month. If they go beyond that, it gets really hard. And so then we need to bring in another team lead. But this is just a little graphic showing you kind of how we do it. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be hard. Okay, so here are the 3 weapons for the technology piece, how we have to definitely look at streamlining our communication. So you got nowadays smartphone, tablet, desktop, these are obviously really, really familiar. Technology, huge. We use a lot of technology in our business, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you to use all these applications. The point that I'm going to make here in this space is that there are so many tools for you to use in your space to streamline technology. I can tell you, though, of this group in front of you of applications, Evernote is key. We use Evernote, GroupMe, SalonBiz, and Slack. Evernote is just a note-taking application that allows you to record notes and then scan files into a cloud-based system, which allows you, if you're multi-location, to have a centralized place to store all of your information, and then you can have people share that information. Evernote is kind of our digital paperless solution in our business. We don't really have a lot of paper lying around. Everything's scanned into Evernote. So you can use Google Drive. You don't have to use Evernote for that. But be thinking about how you can go more paperless in your salon and more digital, so that when things are digital, you can share the information quicker. If I was in a room with you guys, I would ask for a show of hands on how many of you guys do GroupMe or any kind of group messaging. Group messaging is great because what I find is that A, not enough people are doing it, but B, most salons that do have group messaging, when I say group messaging, you have a group set up, and then when you text the group, everybody gets the message. What I find is that when salons are using group messaging, they just have one big group. They don't have separate groups for each of the different departments or the different areas of the business. And so we probably have, I think, maybe 15 different groups that we use. We have one for the educators. We have one for each location. We have one for just the salon directors. We have one for the apprentices that are going through training. We have one for colorists, and then we have one for stylists because our salons are just specialized. You see where I'm going with this? When you have multiple groups, then you can eliminate a lot of noise when communicating, because you're only communicating to that specific group information that's relevant to that group. That makes any sense. And if you texted the number culture to that phone number earlier, I will share with you all of the different groups that we have in the form of a PDF. I'm going to take another poll really quickly. For those of you that are on the call, I want to find out what kind of salon software you're currently using. So if you take a moment, let me try it again. I just want to know how many of you guys, what you're using. So if you take a moment and just answer the question there and let me know which salon software you're using for your salon and spa. So just take a moment. And 88, a lot of SalonBiz users. Fantastic. We use SalonBiz, by the way, at Maximum Effect. So yeah, okay, good. I don't know how many of you guys that are using SalonBiz use the actual app. If you use the SalonBiz app, the cloud version of the app. If you aren't, I would definitely call SalonBiz and find out how to get it set up for you. And here's the reason why. And this is going to tie back into culture, I promise. We actually embrace it. And one of the really cool things about the app, and especially for you owners on the call, is you can see the performance of your team members when you're not even in the building. right? And so imagine this. I'll tell you a true story. Through GroupMe, you can send direct messages to team members, just one-on-one. But you can also look at the performance of the individual team members with the SalonBiz app. And so remember when I was telling you earlier that I used to be that left brain leader that was just all about performance and numbers, black and white. I don't even get me to think about woo-woo stuff. Here's a good example of the shift that happened in my leadership. So, and I do this daily. I just randomly pick a salon, one of my salon locations. I will pull up a team member and I will see where they're excelling in that day. If maybe they have a high pre-booking percentage, or maybe they're killing it on their retail numbers. I will then turn around and I will send them a direct message through GroupMe, even when I'm not in the building. Hey, Erica, you are killing it with your pre-booking today. Keep up the great work. Can you imagine when Erica's on her lunch break, or when she has a free moment and she sees a message from the owner congratulating them on a great performance? Can you imagine how she must feel? Do you think that she's going to have a little bit of extra energy that day, a little pep in her step? Do you think that that's going to really drive her to do better, to even excel even more? Absolutely. I see team members do it. I mean, it lasts for weeks. That's the power of technology. That's the power of really building a better culture through technology and enhancing your communication with your team. And it's great. It's one of my favorite things to do as an owner, as a leader, is to just like, I'm going to make their day. I'm going to watch this. I'm going to let's see who's doing great. I'm going to send them a message through GroupMe. I like to recognize them in front of all their peers on GroupMe. I will send a text message to the entire location, and I will give a shout out to someone that's really doing a great job, and everybody sees that. And so who doesn't want to have a pat on the back, even if it's a technical or technology pat on the back, right? Who doesn't want that from their team member? I mean, from their owner. And so it's amazing, and that doesn't cost anything. That's the beautiful thing. They just want to know that someone's paying attention. They just want to know that someone is acknowledging their hard work. That goes a long, long ways. I can't tell you how far that goes. So again, GroupMe is a really, really great way to do that. All right, so let's see here. Let me go back to measuring. And here's the last piece. So a lot of people ask me, okay, Chris, this is great. I love what you have to say. Culture, get it, values, purpose, whatever. But how do I know? How do I know if I'm improving my culture aside from feeling it? Like, how can I really measure my culture? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. It's just the way you would measure your customer service with your clients. It's through retention. We're really focused on staff or client retention, right? We want to know how many new clients are coming in and how many are coming back, how many existing clients are coming in and how many are coming back. But are we paying attention to our staff retention? Like, how many of them are staying with us? And the easiest way to do that is to simply go to your last paycheck in December of last year, like your last payroll, and add up the number of checks that you wrote for your employees. Just add them up. Say you had 75. And then you want to just take all of your W-2s for the year 2015. So W-2s are all of the people that you hired, right? Everybody gets a W-2. And you're going to divide the number of paychecks in that last payroll into the number of W-2s. And whatever that percentage is your staff retention. And so, if we had, let's say, 100 W-2s, that means throughout the year we had 100 people that we hired, and 75, are the number of checks that we had, at the very last pay period of the year, then we had a 75% staff retention. Okay. And so you can measure your staff retention. And this is how we were able to identify that, we were able within the last 2 years to take our staff retention from, somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 or 55, 60% to the 90% mark. And that's how you're onto something. Another way that you can measure your teamwork is just to survey your team. And I've got an example here. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can do this during one of your staff meetings. Notice how there's no place for them to put their name, because that doesn't really matter. But just print out a few of these. We asked 4 simple questions. How would you describe our culture? What's the biggest thing you feel has contributed to it? What do you like most about it? What can we do to get better? And you're going to find a lot of good things about your culture, and you're going to find out some things where you need to work on. So I've got a few here. One word, how would you describe it? It's teamwork. I've got another one here. How would you describe family? What do you like most about our culture? I work with people that became family. This is where you really start to hear your team's voice. You hear what they're thinking. Sometimes it's important that we survey our team so we know how they're feeling, what's going on in their head, how do they feel about the company, the brand, how you are as a leader. Sometimes we do fall short in this example. What can we do to make our culture better? We need more advocates of our values in times when we fall short. Here's another one, family. What do you like most about our culture that no one is on their own? There is always someone that has your back when you need it. Make sure that we don't lose sight of our values instead of good examples. These are real answers from our team members. And I got to tell you, back in the day when I was that left brain kind of manager that was just, not woo-woo, you would have never convinced me that I would have team members speaking about our business this way. But it took me as a leader changing the course of the business and changing it in a way that really brought a sense of connectedness, of acknowledgement, of emotional attachment to the brand. Another one, strong. What's the biggest thing you feel has contributed? Holding people accountable and changing up our hiring so that we hire people that would best fit our culture. And you get the idea. So again, in closing, the 3 pillars of culture again are values and purpose, leadership, and communication. And so you might be thinking, okay, all of this is really good, but where do I begin? Where do I start? My recommendation for you would be to again, consider having a culture retreat. And if you can't afford to do it during business hours and close the business, do it on a Sunday at the very least, and establish those values and purpose. Maybe it's really, that's the best place to start, because you really can't have the other until you have that in place. And I've included an example of what a culture retreat and agenda might look like for you, a sample agenda, when you text the word culture to that phone number. And then, leadership and communication. If you feel like you're coming up short with communication, really explore some tools to help you with communication. Maybe it's utilizing group messaging in a way that really brings your team together, and that sort of thing. Before I open it up for questions, I do have a special invitation for you guys. We are actually going to be doing a Igniting Your Salon Spa Recruiting with Evernote conference call on March 14th at 1 p.m. And the reason why we're doing it is because we all know that culture is important, and culture, it's kind of a nice segue, but we all know that culture really starts with hiring, right? We have to hire the right people that are in alignment with our values, and so recruiting is huge. So if you're interested in signing up for the conference call in March on recruiting with Evernote, I would encourage you to go ahead and click on the little sunset orange box there that says claim your spot. It's only limited to those that are on this call. And for those of you that don't know what about Evernote and how this could help you, here's what we're going to be covering. So many of you might be thinking, okay, that's me. I struggle to get applications. I mean, I don't have enough. Or maybe you're that owner that you don't really recruit until you lose someone. And so, that's a problem for you. Or maybe there's friction. Everything kind of bottlenecks through one person. Maybe it's the owner that's responsible for recruiting and you don't have time to do everything, right? Maybe it's just not being able, maybe you do have a ton of resumes coming in, but you've got crap everywhere. You've got resumes in your inbox. You got resumes, that people brought in that are laying on the front desk. No one knows kind of who's in the pipeline or doing what. I'm going to show you what we've done in our own business, and I'm going to share with you another tool using Evernote, how we were able to scale our recruiting. We've got like 300 to 400 resumes and applications sitting in our Evernote database that we farm on a daily basis. And I'm going to share with you our secrets to how we accomplished that, how we got more applications through the door, and then how we created a centralized storage place so that multiple people in the company can work our system, and helped us to become more organized. So we can, at the push of a button, we can actually find people by name, by the school that they went to, maybe the position that they are applying for. We have lightning fast searchability when they applied, and then more importantly, as our company grows, it can grow with us. And so I'm going to share with you the system that we developed using Evernote to help us with our recruiting. The number one problem that I hear from most salon owners is that they struggle to get applications. And I'm going to show you how we were able to open up kind of the floodgates and get people into our pipeline through using Evernote. So if you're interested in that, please click on the claim your spot, the sunset orange button there off to the right, and get signed up. And with that, I'm going to put this other slide up. So if you were late arriving on the call, you can text the word culture to 501-492-6200, and you can get a copy of the slides that I shared with you today, along with some other tools that I've put together for you to use in your business, so you had some takeaways. I'll leave that up for you, and I am then now going to open it up for questions. Let's see. And Elise, do we have any questions? Let me make sure the chat room is unmuted. Oop. Any questions? For those of you that have team members, by the way, while we're waiting for questions, that you'd like to be on my next, I'm doing this webinar again next Monday, the 22nd, at the same time. So if you have team members or leaders on your team that you'd like to join in and listen in on this conference call, I'm doing this again next Monday. So you can click on the email confirmation that you got today and have them register. Reviews on Yelp. Do you pay for an ad? Okay, so this is a question from Bonnie. They spoke of reviews on Yelp. Do you pay for an ad on Yelp? We do not. We do not advertise on Yelp. I'm not against advertising on Yelp. However, at the same time, I like to think that our reviews from our clients are plenty advertising. I did write a blog post, though, however, on how to, for those of you on the call that are using Demandforce, how to get more people that give you 5-star reviews on Demandforce to give you a 5-star review on Yelp. So if you just go to motivepoint.biz, and in the search box in the blog, just search Demandforce. And there's a step-by-step guide on how to do that, how to get more people to fill out 5-star reviews on Yelp that gave you 5-star reviews on Demandforce. Okay, and next question is Edie. With your team events, how do you get the entire team engaged and willing to attend? Great question. So the way we get them to get engaged, well, first of all, the way we get them to attend is we typically do our events on a business day. And it's expensive, but I don't look at it as expense. I look at it more as a investment in my culture, and you cannot put a price on staff turnover. So we close our business, and we usually have a neutral location, and we do it during business hours, and that's simply how I get them to attend. And to get them engaged, they're just excited to do something different, just to show up and have something fun to do, something that's different. And one of the ways that we do that is we pick one of our values. So one of our values is the theme of the event. That's kind of what we're doing right now, is we'll pick a value. So maybe it's teamwork. Okay, so that then becomes the overall theme of the culture retreat, and we'll do team building activities. We'll celebrate team accomplishments, everything having to do with teamwork. But here's how I also get them engaged: is I think that it's important to get them involved in putting the culture retreat together. I don't ever put the retreats together anymore. I did in the beginning because they were learning how the whole thing was going to happen. But now I create a couple, I give the responsibility to a couple of people on my team that enjoy that kind of stuff. And then they put it together and they call on their team members to help them. And guess what? As an owner, it's great because I get to show up and be a participant. I'm not stressed out and tired. I get to play with my team. And so I'm in a better framework. I'm in a better mindset. And who wants to be around an owner that's grumpy and agitated all the time? I know what that must feel like because I was that guy. So that's how I get them engaged. Another question is, do you think it'd be too short to try and accomplish a culture retreat or a culture event in a shorter format, like a 2-hour meeting? It depends, Jama. It depends on, I really think it depends on where you are in your culture. I know for us, our trust levels were so low in our business and it was so bad that I had to do something radical to really get their attention. And I knew a staff meeting wasn't going to be enough. But you might have a healthy culture. You might have a pretty good pulse on the business. And so, maybe just reinvigorating or revisiting your culture and your values in a 2-hour staff meeting will do the trick. We always try to allot time in every staff meeting for culture, and we always allot time in our huddles for culture, whether it's our value of the week or whatever it is that we want to our purpose. We got to keep that alive. If you don't, it will fade away. And so it's a kind of a tough question, but I think if you got a great pulse on your culture, then yeah, you could probably do a 2-hour dedicated meeting around culture, only on culture and only on values. Hillary has a question. How do you convince other team members to become more technical when they hate computers? Great question. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'm no different from you guys. I mean, I've got the same challenges and the same problems. And here's how I accomplished that, because that's a great question. Everybody on this call has what I call digital citizens in their business. And these are the millennials. These are the team members that were born with a cell phone in their hand, and so it's natural to them, right? And so those are the people that you go to first. Anytime we're implementing something new in our business when it comes to technology or something that's going to require the entire organization to embrace, it's like pushing an elephant up a mountain. There's no way you can get everybody to do it at one time. So the way you do is you start small and grow into it. And so you create ambassadors of whatever it is you're using. When we started using group messaging, I didn't have everybody on board at the same time. I started with my leadership team. I got them comfortable with the system. I got them comfortable with the technology. And then when they got comfortable, now I had 8 people that could turn around and teach the rest of their team how to do that. So don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. Rome wasn't built in a day. Roll it out in stages. And that's how we typically do everything when it comes to technology is find out who your ambassadors, your technology ambassadors, and then go from there. And when your team members that aren't on board start to see the magic that's happening, people want what they can't have, right? And so they all of a sudden start to show interest. And then next thing you know, they're like, hey, what is that? What are you doing? And then, there goes the transformation. Another one from Dominique. Let's see here. As a manager, I often find my biggest obstacle is that our owner and his unwillingness to stray from what and how he has run everything for the past 5 years. Any advice on how to make them take that first step? Have them sign up for the conference call that I'm doing next Monday. That's a start. I will promise you to drive that story of how I was that manager, home on the next call. And if you go back to some of your previous emails, there's a link in there to register for the webinar. Just go to that link and they can register from that. I'll be doing the exact same conference call next Monday at 1:00. I've had that question before. Brad, I am now having a hard time with daily huddles with split shifting. Yeah, that's a big question. Yeah. And my answer to that is, if you've got, that's the best way to answer that. The best way to answer that is we decided we created 2 shifts, and so we had everybody work the 2 shifts instead of having the salon adapt to everyone's schedule, if I'm understanding you correctly? Do you have more than you may have more people, different people coming in at different times? We kind of got away from that. We went from, people coming in at different times to really having clearly defined shifts and like no more than 2 shifts. If you've got seasonality and you've got part-time help and maybe you have, a 3rd shift, that might be possible. But we really started working towards having 2 shifts and then 2 huddles. And so it's just an expectation that we created. Every shift has a huddle. So for us, we're open. One of our locations is open at 8 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. So our morning huddle starts at 7:50, and then the 2nd shift comes in at 2 o'clock, and their first appointment starts. Their book is open at 2:15, so they're expected to be there at 2 o'clock. We huddle at 2:05. They hit the floor at 2:15. So, that's just how we have it designed. So less is easier. Less is easier to manage. It's easier for your team to remember, all of that. So that's how we got around that. Great question. All right, I can do one more question if anybody has another question. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up, and you will be receiving a recording of this webinar or this conference call in your inbox. I believe it might take an hour or so, and feel free to share that with anyone. And if you are interested in the Evernote call, please be sure to click on that Claim Your Spot button, and I'm going to share with you our tried and true tested recruiting program that we've created using Evernote. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close the call. I'm going to leave the chat room open. I'm going to stop the broadcast, but I'm going to leave the chat room open. If you have any more questions, we can visit through chat. Thank you guys again for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your Monday. Take care.